And once again, the best Formula One fans in the world are out in force here in Singapore. It's amazing. People just make the trek around the world because of their love of this sport. And I must say, Eddie, what a place to come. They look after the fans well, you get great action. A lot of these guys say they leave here with bits of Formula One tyre rubber in their hairs because they're so close to the action here.
Well, they had fireworks on the track and they had some firework display in the air as well. I mean, Singapore, they do put the red carpet out. Every single person feels so welcome. They've every rock star in the world here, free of charge, go around on the big machine on the wheel. It is just a fabulous experience.
Okay, do you want to go and have a chat to a few of those fans there? They seem to chant your name every race we go to, you know.
You're just jealous, come on.
Very
well,
jealous,
I should talk to them.
Yeah, go on.
Come on.
Go on.
Well, this is quite exciting. I'm going to try and calm these people down a touch, but maybe not. We have Lewis Hamilton. Who owns the Lewis Hamilton flag? Who owns the... Oh, no, it's a Jensen Button. Who's the Jensen fan? Are you a Jensen fan?
Yes.
What's your name?
Janice.
Janet, where are you from?
Newcastle.
You come all the way especially for this race. You are out of your mind, are you?
I'm living over here now.
You're working?
Yeah.
What a great experience. And Jensen, how well did he drive? Please tell me who that is.
It's fantastic.
Where are you from?
England, Glossop, Derbyshire.
And did you come out specially or you're working out here?
My 40th.
You don't look a day over 21.
What's
Come
with
on.
the pyjamas?
The pyjamas, we already heard that comment. We don't need any more comments about like that. We've already had that funny gag by Jake earlier on. It's getting a bit old hat. What's your name?
James,
Where are you from, James?
Devon in England.
And you've
All
come
the way
out
from
or are you
there.
living out here?
Now I come out here on honeymoon with my new wife, and especially for
Honeymoon 40th, living out here. My God, I'm missing a trick here, Jake. It's I'd love to celebrate my 60th, but it was a long time ago.
Well done for making the effort to be out here. They clearly love the shirt as well. But it's fans like this that make this sport, isn't it?
Yeah, but look, isn't it absolutely ironic? Most of them are British because they are such hardcore motor racing fans. We love it. We have, even though, look, Lewis Hamilton flags, even though today was a difficult time for him, and in actual fact it was a difficult race for him as well.
Yeah, okay. Well, lovely to see you all. Thank you very much for coming down. Well done. There wouldn't be a sport without them, would there? And let's make our way through the Neddy to the paddock, because that's where the drivers will be, and that's where we should head for the F1 forum. Now, just to let you know, of course, that this is your opportunity, it's your forum. You can email us f1@bbc.co.uk, or of course you can send me a tweet as well, which is @JakeHumphreyF1. And here we are, look, coming into the Red Bull garage, where they seem... The nice thing about this team is if you turn around here and have a look here, they pass the champagne around every team member. Just tell us, how sweet is that champagne? They don't... Yes, you're not escaping. Tell us, how sweet does that taste after today?
Quite nice, actually. It's not cold. It's still cold, sorry, and it's not warm, but it's nice.
And how was the race from your perspective in here, working hard with the pit stops and things?
Yeah, it was good. Front right was really good. Not doing pit stops. Yeah, it seems right. Controlled race.
All right, well done. You know Lewis Hamilton's aware that your pit stops are faster than McLaren's, yeah?
Is that
It's just normal.
That's just normal. Being the fastest it is now. Well, let's make our way out of the garage. The guys would tell them. That is just ludicrous.
I'm only getting my own back on you.
Well, I didn't pour any champagne on you.
But you allowed it to happen.
Sadly, it wasn't me, and I'm sure you at home saw that. I'll sort him out a bit later. But yes, McLaren are a bit slower than Red Bull in the pit stops. However, they're working hard to correct that. Let's make our way out. And the guys were telling me, and you can see them all working hard at getting all this cleared down before they head off to Japan. It was 100 degrees in here, Eddie, the working conditions this weekend for these guys.
It's hard for people living in continental Europe to just get their head around what it's like. If I could imagine being put even in an oven or a microwave, closing the door, turning the switch on, this is what it's like. It is something that is hard to describe because it's oven-like.
Yeah, okay, and a quick look at the paddock then, because you can see it's just as busy. However, the big difference now is that there's these huge containers. There's the big Mercedes-Benz container. They'll be putting all the car parts in there and getting rid of those. And if you take a look around here, you can see that there's still various reporters waiting for drivers and waiting to speak to them, because it takes an awful long time for them to fulfill their media commitments. At the moment, the three fastest guys are, of course, in the press conference. Then they come down here. Then they speak to the reporters in here. And then finally we get them... that isn't sweat, can I just point out? It isn't that hot today.
It's champagne, I hope.
He gave me a champagne shower while I was interviewing people, Martin. How disgraceful is that? And he then complains because I did him back.
Let's just very quickly show Eddie the evidence, Martin, of me pouring champagne down his back. Oh yeah, there I am. That's me. Right, okay, Eddie. There I am, yeah.
Sweet stuff.
Wearing a Red Bull top.
Did you notice I didn't even flinch?
What do you say?
Thank you, I apologise, but it looks good on you.
We've got to put this lovely shirt into a charity auction, haven't we, for somebody?
Well, at this rate of going on, it's got such abuse, this poor shirt. I don't know what we're going to wind up doing with it. Maybe it might make decent money in a charity, but you'd have to sign it, Marty, and maybe Jake will as well.
Okay, bad shirt, good race. Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it, yeah. I didn't feel like an hour and 59. I was just saying to DC before he had to Vamouche to get straight to the airport and catch an aeroplane. It didn't seem that long to me. I really enjoyed the race. I mean, it wasn't an all-time classic we're going to talk about for a long time, of course, but I thought it had its moments.
Okay, I'm just going to get up a few tweets from various people because there were some criticisms levelled at Singapore saying, you know, these street circuits don't work. Monaco's not particularly exciting. Valencia hasn't really set the calendar on fire. But it's different here, isn't it? It's exciting for different reasons.
Well, with these new rules, I'd have to reverse that argument and say, if you're not a city street race now, you're on the back foot, because we have Melbourne, we've got Montreal, we've got even Valencia, we've got Monaco, and they are such entertaining races to come to do our work in, because the ambience, people want to travel to here. It's just an exciting place to come to.
And did you agree with David, driver of the day, Paul di Resta? Because there was some really strong performances out there up and down the field.
Well, we talked about it again before while he was taking his microphone, his headset out, and he said, wow, because it's Sebastian Vettel, but you can't say that every weekend. So we've agreed it's like, who's driver of the day apart from Sebastian Vettel? And obviously he thought Paul di Resta did a great job, which is difficult to argue against. But, you know, Vettel had it all covered, didn't he, out front? So he's like the default driver of the day, isn't he?
Yeah. Button, let's just think about Jensen. I thought he did a remarkable good job as well. But those three are in a little annex of their own. I thought that, given that it's his first time, given that he's a rookie, I'd go along with Paul di Resta. You can't take it away from him.
Okay. Well, we'll hear from the three fastest drivers in the press conference. Let's just really quickly get through a few questions on here. Nice short answers. Give you an opportunity to get your questions answered. We've got one here from DRG99. Martin, are the stewards being fair and consistent?
I don't know whether when Lewis goes up to the stewards he goes in with the right attitude or whether he's upset them. There is no doubt about it. You can't help but feel that it comes down against him where others get the rub of the green. And I thought he might get a penalty today, to be honest, because it seriously affected Massa's race. I think if Massa had carried on and it was Lewis who lost his front wing, I think the stewards may not have done anything. Personally, I think that matters. That makes a difference as to, you know, if you've made a mistake and it's affected somebody else's race or just your own.
Okay, Robert_Scully, question for you, Eddie. Felipe is not quick enough to drive for Ferrari, and actually during that race, Chris Evans, who I know enjoys the forum, hello Chris, was tweeting saying, stick Paul di Resta in a Ferrari.
Keep Paul di Resta where he is. He is learning such a lot. He has a brand new bunch of people. He's applying his trade magnificently. Leave Paul there. When he's ready to leave there, he'll be a number one in the team, never as a number two. Okay. So no problem about that, Chris. That's my view. With regard to, you know, what else is happening in the thing, Massa, exactly. You know, he blows hot and cold. I just think that at the moment he's probably not quick enough for the Ferrari team, and they probably will look like replacing him, and it's a shame because he's blaming Lewis on a lot of his problems at the moment, and of course they are touching each other or impeding each other, and that of course affects both people.
Okay, final question before the press conference. Hope the Plan Pony says, why didn't the Williams move over? Jensen could have had Seb at the end there. I got so annoyed I threw a pillow at the TV. Well, that's a good choice of object for throwing at the television for a start. But that was really frustrating, wasn't it? Because as you said in commentary, a full 2 seconds were lost in that moment.
Yeah, it was a shame, but don't forget on the previous lap, Vettel had lost 2 seconds as well. Vettel had it under control, didn't he? Jensen said on the slowing down lap to his engineer, we didn't have the speed to win this race today, and I think he's absolutely right. In fact, the facts support that as well, of course.
Great, and some praise ready for pouring champagne on me, but I don't agree with that.
Could you read that one out, please?
No. And finally, actually, good one for you, Eddie. Where were all the people who said Lewis was going to blow Jensen away when he joined McLaren? Actually, loads of tweets from all of you at home saying, is Jensen Button now the number one at McLaren? Is he now the team leader? Bear in mind, Lewis never been beaten by his teammate in an F1 season. Well,
as sure as we say that Jensen is the number one, you know what's going to happen next week? Lewis will go out and win it. So I'm not going to say that. But I have to say, rubber to green doesn't seem to be going for Lewis at the moment. But he is putting his car in a position that he doesn't need to do. And he is causing himself untold aggravation as a result. Lewis Hamilton doesn't need to be doing this. He is just naturally so quick. I wish he'd just do his normal race.
Okay, right, 20 to 11 in the evening here in Singapore, but plenty for us still to talk about. We're not going to go anywhere. Stick with us on the F1 Forum, but right now let's hear from the 3 fastest men in today's Singapore Grand Prix.
Congratulations to you, Seb. No World Championship celebrations here, but another pole, another victory, but not by the large margin that at one stage looked likely.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, first of all, I'm very, very pleased with the result. The car was fantastic all the way through. I think when we had to push, we could pull away quite, easily and pull a gap, which helped us. Obviously, the safety car came out. It didn't really fit to our plan because we had a big gap, and I think about 30 seconds and 30 laps to go. But nevertheless, I had a very good restart. I was a bit lucky that there were some back markers between me and Jensen, and was able to find into the rhythm. I'll get back into the rhythm straight away, pull a huge gap, and then was quite happy because towards the end with the traffic, it is quite busy around here. There isn't much space, and if you catch the traffic at the wrong place on the circuit, you lose quite some time. So in the end, obviously, last lap I faced 5 cars, quite a large group, but was plenty of room. Obviously, not that big margin when I crossed the line, but I was in control over Jensen was going into the last lap, and as I said, all in all, fantastic result. I really loved the track. I loved the challenge. It's one of the longest races. I think it's the longest even. So great. The car was fantastic. Engine-wise, everything was great. Renault again did a very good job. So we were in a comfortable position for most of the race, which is pretty handy around here because it's quite a big challenge to put the sectors together, not only qualifying, also in the race. So, as I said, the pace was good, and I'm very pleased. And for the championship, looks like we have another chance at the next race.
Jensen, for you, a 4th podium finish in a row, but tell us about the back markers, not just at the restart, but the 2 Williams drivers that rather stalled your progress as you were catching Sebastian towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's I can understand that it's difficult to move over here, and most people were fighting out there, but they've got to respect that the cars that are lapping them, they're lapping them for a reason because they're quicker and they're fighting for a high position. So there were some frustrating moments in the race. One was with Kobayashi. I sat behind him for a lap, couldn't get past, and then he finally pulled over, and the 2 Williams obviously were fighting between themselves. And the thing is, when it gets to the last lap and people see that they've been lapped, they think that it's their last lap, so they're pushing hard and they're racing each other, and they forget that their car's trying to overtake. But forgetting that, it was the best we could have done today. I feel that I got everything out of the car, especially towards the end of the race when I was able to push on the tyres and really see what the car had. But we weren't quick enough to win today. But a good finish all the same, and something that we can hopefully build on for the next race.
Mark, before the race, Jensen mentioned that he might have a chance off the line given your record at the start recently, and he did get past you going into the first turn, but from then on, some great battles for yourself, once again with Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, unfortunately I find myself having to come back through too often this season, so can't make the starts I made last year at the moment. I need to work on those. We'll look at them and definitely improve. I've just got to keep working harder because it makes it quite frustrating, and it's more risky again to come back through and trying to regain the positions on the track, particularly when the DRS isn't working. So in the end, probably lost a position today out of that. I mean, JB was, put a good last in together, so it would have been a good battle with him, even if I did have track position. Seb clearly deserved the victory. And overall, if you come here and you say you have a podium, of course, you would love a win, and that's what we all strive for. But this is a very, very challenging venue. It's nice to have the car in one piece for everybody. The guys done a great job all weekend. For me in particular, it's not the most, easiest track for me. It's challenging for quite a few of us, but I don't seem to be super quick around here. So in the end, I want to thank all my guys. They've done a great job for me all weekend, and the team, Renault, everybody, again, 100% reliability, and great job to them. So well done to JB. Good second place for him. So yeah.
And Seb, finally to you, I think there might have been a few tears on the podium. Was that for your first win here? Was that sighs of relief that the 2 hours had finally finished, or was it the emotion of another victory being as special as the first this season?
Yeah, I think it was a bit of all, and I had something in my eye. So, but yeah, I mean, as I said, I really like this track, and especially after last year, where it was a tough fight till the end with Fernando. I was all the way, from start to finish, shadowing him last year. I felt I could have gone a little bit quicker. It was a nice battle, and I finished second. So this year it was great to come back and get the job done in a way. So as we all agree, I think this is one of the toughest challenges we face all year. It's getting quite hot inside the car. The race is quite long. The humidity makes us sweat a lot and work hard, so which is good, So it's nice when you cross the line, knowing that you've done your best and achieved your optimum. So I think we can be very proud of ourselves again. Fantastic race from start to finish, smooth pit stops, and in the heat, I think we once again kept our heads cool. So perfect day in the office, I would say.
Not for the first time this season. Well done, Sebastian Vettel. He wins the Singapore Grand Prix just in front of Jenson Button, who was frantically catching him towards the end and finished just 1.7 seconds away. And Mark Webber, look at that, a full 30 seconds off the pace. Fernando Alonso almost a minute behind the winner, and Lewis Hamilton coming in 5th. Paul di Resta, his best finish in Formula 1, finished 6th. Nico Rosberg getting himself in a bit of trouble at a couple of moments. He finished well in the points, and Sergio Perez rounds off the point scorers. There's Pastor Maldonado in 11th and Rubens Barrichello in 13th. They held up Jenson Button, and it didn't help them either. They also finished out of the points, and that's worth a mention. Heikki Kovalainen finishing in front of Vitaly Petrov on pace on the track. Something seriously wrong with those Renaults this weekend. Jaime Alguersuari didn't get to the end of the race. We saw him there sticking the car into exactly the same place where Timo Glock had done so a bit earlier on. And we'll take a look at Michael Schumacher's incident in detail with both Martin and Eddie in just a few moments. And this is what it means then for the Drivers' Championship. Only one man has still got a chance of stopping Sebastian Vettel. That man is Jenson Button, and he must win every single remaining race and hope that Sebastian doesn't score any points. So congratulations on the title, Sebastian. And as far as the constructors' battle is concerned, well, actually that's still open, but again, 138 points, the lead has been extended, and Red Bull still very much in the driving seat there, if you'll excuse the pun. A quick one about Sebastian Vettel there. Do we buy that? Something in his eye? He wasn't crying on the podium. He's actually looked emotional the last couple of times, hasn't he?
Well, he's getting so close to that double world championship, and he knows that only 8 other drivers in the history of this great sport in 60 years or more have achieved that. And I think now it's really beginning to hit home to him just what he's achieving so quickly.
And it could have all gone wrong, though. Let's have a little look at Sebastian's pit stop, where he very nearly collected a Lotus, and this could have ruined the whole race for them.
Well, we have to see a couple of things before the findings of the steward, not just because this is, for me, a dangerous release by Lotus, but let's not criticise him until the judges have the full facts. We would like to talk about the Schumacher thing about because we talk about why that wasn't a penalty, but let's go back, look at that. It's just absolutely ridiculous that guy was allowed, or the lollipop man was allowed out to let him do that.
Yeah, but you don't know if the lollipop man released him and then for whatever reason the Lotus couldn't get away, or the clutch had a problem or whatever, so you can't go straight to the lollipop man until we know whether the car really did. It's fine you lifting the lollipop, if the car doesn't move.
Well,
it looks like a lollipop man to me.
Yeah.
Lollipop
we've
man
seen that action.
Needs talking to, I think.
That's a shame. That's just as Martin was building up to a great moment there.
Yeah, and of course Vettel then was incredibly close to crossing or riding along the white line.
We saw Nico Rosberg make that mistake, didn't we?
Yeah, Rosberg made a mistake out of turn 1, but I mean, obviously Vettel would say I was forced over there by an unfair release.
Force majeure, I would say, would be an argument. But then again, you don't want to be going to the stewards after a race like this. It's nice and clean. We now know who won it, and there's no queries about it.
Well, maybe after Tony Fernandez has spent so much money with his team in Formula 1, he wants a bit of time on the telly, and that's one way of getting it, I suppose. What do you think the stewards will do, though?
Well, what can they do? They can only end up penalising the Lotus driver, unfortunately. That's the shame of it. I can't imagine it'll just be monetary. I think they'll get a place drop, because it's one and the same thing, the driver, the team. You can't differentiate them in terms of penalties like that.
And just worth pointing out how difficult that job is. To be a lollipop man at a Formula 1 pit stop is super hard.
It's one of the most arduous jobs that there currently is, because on one hand he's trying to release his driver to get the best possible getaway. I mean, he has only 2 eyes, remember, and he can't really look down the pit wall. However, he should have somebody telling him, or whatever it is. I think that is a really difficult call, and I support the lollipop guy because I think it's a difficult job.
Okay, well, it almost all went wrong at the end there for Sebastian Vettel, but it went totally right at the start. The last 2 pole positions, Martin, he's blown it at the start, Sebastian. Nothing like that today, a good getaway.
Yeah, it was good. It wasn't great, was it? But the others around him weren't that smart off the line either. And as ever, Fernando Alonso gets himself in a nice, comfortable 3rd place there as it's all kicking off behind. And I felt really sorry for Lewis because he wrecked his day, but going in there, you know, he was about to make a move on Webber, thought better of it, and then just got swamped by those going down the easier, freer outside line. And of course that would prove to dramatically affect his afternoon, as these small aspects often do.
Martin, I'd like to ask you a question. Do you think Lewis is probably just taking too much on in the first 2-3 corners of the race? Because we know how fast he is, we know what he can do in his passing moves, and he just puts himself in a really difficult catch-up position.
He's just lost the touch in traffic, hasn't he? Because his mistakes have been clumsy, like the contact with Kobayashi in Spa, which is how I pretty much see today's, if I'm honest. It was just sort of almost not paying enough attention to the extremities of his car. You know, they don't move around too much. They're all pretty much in the same place. And as if Lewis has just somehow lost his judgment. Those amazing overtakes with experience.
Do you buy this DC thought that he's too low in the car? And
I don't think it helps.
Right.
I don't think it helps. But you've got to get underneath the bar that they run from the rollover hoop down to the front roll hoop in front of you. And but I don't think it's that. You know, otherwise you'd be knocking the front wing off all the time.
Okay, well, let's talk about this man, because he has struggled all season long. He'd lost 20 places at the start of the Grand Prix coming into this one. He lost another couple there.
He could have lost a lot more if that run to the first corner was a normal one, because this was the shortest one of the calendar year, I believe. And you could see, actually, Jensen probably would have taken, Sebastian as well. Just something not quite there with the Red Bulls on their starting mechanism.
And while Sebastian Vettel serenely disappears off into the distance, if you're anywhere other than first on the grid going towards that first corner, you can be in a bit of trouble. And let's have a look at Lewis Hamilton, because he got seriously blocked in here, didn't he? This was a difficult start to the race for him because of Webber.
Yeah, he had to go left. He got no option there. Mark Webber then starts to cover him, which is fair enough. But then because they're quite tight on the apex, they've got quite an acute angle then with the line they approached it on, and it's dirty down there. They were... Mark Webber was quite cautious, which meant that Lewis Hamilton had to be cautious too. Meanwhile, they're just streaming down the outside. But that's why we love standing starts and why the first lap's so exciting.
And terribly frustrating. There's probably nothing worse than, in Lewis's mind, that was just a shocker of a start for him, because through no real fault of his own, he was put into a difficult position. And is that Perez or?
That's Schumacher there. Schumacher.
And then he lost another place, didn't he?
He seemed to have not a lot of pace or grip at this early stage.
He was really struggling, wasn't he, Lewis, in that early phase? And he dropped back, I believe, if I remember correctly, from Schumacher in the first lap or two. And then he really got up to speed. David said that it might well have been that he got dirty tyres and he was trying to clean them up, having been so tight on the way into the first corner.
Possibly.
Well, whatever happens, look, he's even losing ground here, and it takes him a while to get his momentum up together, whether it was the tyres, which is probably a little bit hard to fully understand, because he didn't actually go off the track like other people did, but nevertheless, he made a very tardy start, and it gives himself a real job to get back up there again.
But Lewis didn't do anything wrong going down to the first corner. It just didn't work out for him.
Yeah.
You couldn't say, oh, he should have done this, he should have done that. What more can he do? Okay, he had to go left of Webber.
One man who did something right was Fernando Alonso. Let's have a look at him, because he's had some electric starts. He snatched the lead at a couple of Grand Prix. Didn't quite manage that here, but you can see on his left-hand side, flying past Lewis and Mark Webber there.
You know, he does this every race, but what I just don't get about the Ferrari, half distance, fuel comes off, they just seem to evaporate. It goes away. What's happening to this Ferrari car? There doesn't seem to be the grip consistently through the race that we see at the beginning of the race, and it certainly needs to be asked when we get Stefano on our show next. We've got to ask him, what is the problem?
They haven't carried on this step forward that they said that they were showing midway through the season, have they, Martin? I don't know whether they're now fully on the 2012 car, but you would think updates to this car would help them for next year.
Yeah, I don't know what Red Bull have brought along that would make them go particularly faster either. McLaren, we now are still tweaking their car, but I think it might just be the layout of the track hasn't suited the Ferrari on Pirellis on this day in history, as DC would say.
You know what's really worrying at this stage? If I was a real big Ferrari fan, I'd say to myself, how lucky are we that Mercedes are having such a very on-off season, because they would be then in danger of losing third place in the Constructors' Championship, which would be unthinkable, really, when you think about the greatness of this team.
And of course, by supporting only one driver, they've lost themselves second place or even first place in the Constructors' Championship in the last couple of seasons. Let's actually hear from Stefano Domenicali, who's with Ted.
Well, Stefano, they certainly know how to put on a show here, don't they? You don't get a firework display after every race. How did it go for you?
I mean, not really good as a race. Unfortunately, I think that the position is the maximum that we can get today. We were not fast enough today, and that's it. I mean, I think the classification shows the pace that we had today.
And the Felipe with Lewis, again, a clash between the two?
I mean, what I can say, I think that maybe Lewis was a little bit too aggressive in that corner, but that's part of the race, and he received the penalty, and he was in front of us again.
It's unfortunate because it ruined Felipe's race as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the racing. It was a shame because Felipe was doing up to that moment a good race, and but you know what I can say.
And we thought maybe Fernando would be a bit quicker here. Or did he have any specific problems with the car, or is it, as you say, just the general pace?
No, I think that two things. First, at the beginning, we were trying to be cautious on the brake temperature, so we said to him to manage that. Secondly, we were, I would say, the grading mode that we were expecting on the super soft tires. That's why we always put after the soft tires, because that was really the difference, the main difference that we had.
Okay, thank you, Stefano.
Okay, you've both raced against Ferrari over the years. At the start of the season, it was quite clear, Luca de Montezemolo, we need to be world champions. Not going to happen this year. How much pressure is on that team and that man?
Huge amount, I'd say, bearing in mind they, this time last year, looked like being favourites, I suppose. You know, the second half of last year was so dominant by Ferrari, and Alonso did a great job, and we probably expected him to close out the championship. That didn't happen. Webber won it. Whatever has happened, either that they weren't able to motivate and move on with their new car for this year, they've been pretty much a disappointing.
I think they've got a big task to change it around. Remember, Ferrari are out there by themselves. They're not like one of the 8 teams based in the UK where there's a pool of talent that they can take. They don't lose their people quite so easily. You can't move around teams when you're based at Ferrari. I suspect there might be a bit of dead wood there. They've got to freshen up. They bought Pat Fryan. So there's a lot of skill there. Somehow you don't sense that they're all rowing the boat in the same direction at the same time. So it just needs tightening up. But they're so close, but not close enough.
Okay, you may have seen Lewis there walking through shot going into the McLaren garage. It'd be lovely to get hold of him, and lots of messages coming in saying various drivers you'd like to hear from on the F1 forum. Request to him with all of them as and when they become available. We'll make sure that we get them onto the show. But also lots of questions coming in about Michael Schumacher. Black Sheep 40, will Schumi be in F1 next year? Well, we heard from Michael Schumacher during that race, and he described a big moment as the racing incident. Would you agree with that, or was it a slight mistake from him?
Well, you know, we all talk about consistency. We also talk about transparency. If Lewis Hamilton got a drive-through penalty and he was penalised, I cannot work this out, because for me...
there's two incidents, isn't there? There's this one first involving Rosberg. Should we cover that one, and then we'll get on to the Schumacher incident? So do you think this should have had a penalty? Nico's driving here.
Well, let's have another look at it. Look, he's on the inside.
No.
I think that's about similar to Lewis Hamilton, because I don't think Lewis should have had a penalty. I don't think there's a lot between the two.
Well, we're seeing then
the Schumacher moment.
The Schumacher moment against, but this is just a misjudgment by Michael. He put his car in position, but
he said in the interview that Hugo Perez braked too early.
No, he didn't. He said he braked earlier than he thought he would.
Yeah.
He didn't really blame him. He said he just misjudged how early he would brake.
It's a carbon copy of what happened in Valencia between Mark Webber, isn't it, really? Except, you know, Michael was a bit fortunate. It didn't fly up in the air and do a double swoop. But, I mean, to be honest, Martin, he shouldn't have let that happen.
No, that's a misjudgment. It's a total misjudgment by Michael. You know, Perez is going to brake sooner than later because there's a 90-degree right-hander coming up, and I'm not entirely sure where Michael thought he was going with that move, to be honest, because they were
not
a long way right.
Maneuver. The corner, you cannot pass there. You might bully your way through, but you're going to lose on the exit. And, you know, I think that was a bad call by Michael.
Okay, and to go back to the question that was originally posed, will Schumi be around next year? There's nothing to suggest that he's not enjoying this, and actually coming into this race, 2 fifth-place finishes, he'd been in and around it, hadn't he? He'd been in the hunt, in the mix.
fantastic. I thought recent races, he's been a joy to watch. You know, he's back, he's hard, and he's toughening up the rest of the competitors in Formula One. We know how difficult he is to pass, and I thought he had moved up a gear. And, you know, I wouldn't let this incident just cloud our judgment. We just let's see what he's going to do.
Yeah, he's had 3 great races, hasn't he? Canada, Spa, and Italy. Today wasn't one of them, that's for sure. It was a bad error there for Michael.
All right, well, let's go for a little walk, actually, because it's quite a nice thing to do. We need to be back up here because hopefully we'll get to join in the celebrations and celebrate Sebastian Vettel's brilliant win here very shortly. But we can go for a wander along here, and we don't get to do this with you too much, Martin. I get to do it with the other guys. Great place, great paddock, great race, isn't it?
It is, and you know, there's something about racing at night that makes it very special. I know when I used to do hot rod racing as a kid, and when darkness falls, it seems to add another 10 or 20% to the excitement level and the atmosphere. But you know, there's a lot of work going on in here still. They've got to get these cars. This is a long tour for the Formula One teams. The logistics of all of this are quite incredible, aren't they?
Yeah, well, physically, as a race is hard on the drivers, but it's hugely hard on the team, because no sooner the car goes over the line, they pack up everything, it goes to Japan, and immediately after Japan, 4 days later, they've got to be in Korea. I mean, it's a daunting prospect.
We've got a traffic jam. We've got a traffic jam of forklift trucks.
We don't want to get squashed by these forklift trucks, but one of us will do if we're not careful. People don't actually realise the constant movement in Formula One.
I think it's 7 jumbo jets, cargo jumbo jets, to move Formula One around with all the kit that the teams take with them. And that destination Yas Marina, see, that's the other thing, talking about logistics, that some of these pieces will cut Grand Prix out and go straight from A to C.
Such is the demanding number of races that you will have people being flown out because people are naturally tired or need to be on top form, and there will be soon, if we continue like the way we're going, and if somebody like Red Bull keeps forcing all the other teams, you're going to have 2 shifts, because it's certainly in certain areas you already have that 2 shifts, because there's double the loads of spares. It's like a rock concert. When a big act is on tour, one set and stage goes one way and the other goes another. Formula One is going to be no different.
Could that be because, Martin, this is a relatively similar circuit in some ways to the Yas Marina circuit, with a few slow corners, so that's a part that would work here, wouldn't be so relevant in Japan, and so it goes straight on. What would be the thinking there?
It could well be. I mean, it might be consumables that's where it's heading to, but
if you don't mind,
Martin, Eddie will know better than me.
Can I tell you what it is?
Up and expected
because
all this lot
Formula
to be
One
ready.
team bosses are such a misery when it comes to spending money. This will go sea freight, the other goes air freight. These are, exactly as Martin says, probably consumables, stuff that's easy to be bought in Japan or Korea. Why put that on a jumbo? It'll cost a fortune when we can put it on a ship, and it'll perfectly easily turn up in Yas Marina. And there you go.
Okay, well, if you were watching our pre-show on Saturday, you would have seen Martin did this brilliant piece where he gets back behind the wheel of a Formula One car, wrecks some tyres, gives the car back to Pirelli, lets them sort out the mess. Would you like to take a quick look at Bruno Senna's tyres, which are race finished behind you, and just talk us through how you thought the tyres performed this weekend, Martin, based on what we expected?
Well, see, this is the problem. Looking at that set of tyres, you'd say not too much wrong with them. But we know that the Renault team had an awful race because they just simply couldn't get their car to work in the slow corners. They said they're missing downforce. But the surface overheats, it grips best. It's a chemical relationship between the rubber and the tarmac, and particularly the imperfections in the tarmac, the grip. But if they go much over 120 centigrade, they really won't give you the grip that you need. But standing there, having cooled down, they've scraped them, look, so that
Just
Pirelli
explain what that's about as well, the scraping they do.
Scraped it to measure the true tyre depth, to get all the rubbish off the top, basically, because the drivers go and pick up. There's a clearer picture of it around here, actually, if you want to have a look. If you can see that one there, Andy. So then they can get a true measurement through these holes here. You don't have to have a certain amount of tread, otherwise you get an endorsement on your licence. You just lose grip, unfortunately. But you have to look at those and say, not really a big issue.
And then this is obviously the data that they're gathering from the tyre, which they download on there. I don't know whether you can make any judgment of that, or even whether we should look at it.
I feel like I'm imposing a little bit on somebody else's secret information, but tread wear, temperature, defects. So there will
There's
be
nothing on there, thankfully, but
a complete database of all of those tyres, which gets fed into a master computer for Pirelli. And therefore, I mean, the teams put huge amounts of trust and faith in Pirelli that they won't share the knowledge they have, because they can soon tell you which which team has which camber
Yeah.
and the suspension loads that are going through there. But they trust Pirelli to keep that information firewalled. And so Pirelli need that for their own performance evaluation without, of course, telling other teams what's going on.
Yeah, and at the end of a lovely Grand Prix, these beautiful clean cars, look at that, absolutely caked in dirt.
Brake
An awful
dust.
lot of brake dust because this place very tough on the brakes. Didn't see any giveaway today, but we have in the past. Eddie Jordan has got someone here that he'd like to chat to, so Eddie, we'll...
Jake,
we'll
I'm going
let
to
you
bring
go,
him over
yeah?
to the myths. This is never going to give it up
see him.
himself.
How you doing?
This is
How you
Rick
doing?
Astley, ready. He played in a couple of gigs last night and again today. First time in Singapore?
I've been to Singapore before, but I've never been this close to the Grand Prix. It was absolutely amazing, absolutely incredible.
Was it warmer on stage or backstage here in the Grand Prix?
We were really lucky. We got in the Mercedes GP, box, I'll call it, pits,
Nice.
box. No, it was absolutely amazing. It was unbelievable. The temperature in there, I've got so much respect for the guys, the crew and everybody. It's incredible. Absolutely amazing.
Last night I went to have a look at the first gate because it kind of coincided today. I couldn't get there, but there was this wonderful
So you had to
arena.
actually come to work, didn't you, today?
I did come to work, yeah, but there you go.
But I did ask special permission that I could take time off to come and see you play.
Absolutely.
And the reaction for the people, young, old, what is it about you? You just seem to attract yourself to all of these young girls, ladies, lovely people.
You're a lovely man, Eddie. You're a lovely man. No, to be honest, I just try and have a bit of fun, really. I mean, obviously, you got up and played the drums, which
hoping
was
you weren't gonna say
fantastic, which is the highlight of the whole night, and the
Don't
band will
tell
never
them
ever
that.
get over it, to be honest. But no, it was good. I mean, I think the people here, that's one of the things I've been astonished with, I think. I mean, I've been here to do concerts and stuff, but what they do with the Grand Prix, I think, is absolutely amazing. They're unbelievable. They're so precise about everything. So, yeah, it's
Well,
It
we
feels
agree
there's
with
a
that.
race on. Sometimes we go to places you wouldn't know there's a Grand Prix. You walk into the middle of Istanbul, 12 million people, you wouldn't know there's a Grand Prix 30 kilometres down the road.
I mean, here, it takes over the whole city, as you know. I mean,
Literally.
it's unbelievable. Yeah, it is. It's amazing. It is.
Right.
Well, thank you for asking
Thank
me
you.
to play with you
Before
yesterday.
you go, explain this Rickrolled phenomenon, because when I tweeted to say Rick Astley's performing in Singapore, I go, oh, you've been Rickrolled. This has kind of been a great resurgence for you, because
Yeah.
everyone now talks about it. What was it? What is it?
Yeah, I think some guy in America a couple of years back decided to trick one of his friends by sending him a video of Never Gonna Give You Up, my first
Yeah.
single.
How does that go again?
Come on. It goes something like that. Obviously, somebody thought it was funny, but the idea is that you send them a link that you think you're going to see some fabulous bird take her top off, or you're going to see the winning goal
Lady.
at the FA Cup final, but you get me instead. And for some people, that's humorous, but whatever, yeah.
Well, if they love Rick Astley, then it is.
Listen,
more
I'm
than
not
humorous.
knocking it. I'm not knocking it.
Okay, and is that the only singing we're going to get out of you? You're not going to...
I think that's it, to be honest. My voice is shot. Do you know what I mean? I'm so dehydrated, darling. But, yeah.
Little bit.
I never got to...
Oh, that'll do. Right, brilliant. Rick, thank you very much.
I'll leave to the
No
professionals.
worries.
Thank
Well,
you very much.
lovely
Thank
to see
you.
you.
Cheers.
You are a
Nice to see you.
professional.
Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go, Eddie. That's another pass for you to some event you've managed to sort yourself out with. Let's walk down
It
here.
was
because
great fun, actually. He's a top, lovely guy, top performer. And can we offload this somewhere, Jake? Anyway,
In other words,
offload
take
it.
this from me. I'll give this to Tiger. There you go. Right, now let's talk about McLaren. Let's talk about Martin Whitmarsh. He's down here talking to the British press. And I mentioned beforehand, Martin, Sebastian Vettel's been the man that's led the charge this year, led every race brilliantly. Yet there's probably been more headlines written about Lewis Hamilton. I guess when you have Lewis in your team, you have to accept that you're going to be talked about and going to be written about. And we'll see that if we just pop over to where Martin is. Yes, just down here in front of us. We can see this now. There's so much interest, isn't there, in Lewis and in this team?
Well, because he's a dynamic driver, and he reminds me a bit of Nigel Mansell in that respect. There's always a story around him, whether it's good or bad or dramatic, or there's something going on in Lewis's life. I think I remember seeing a couple of races ago in an interview we did with him. He said, "I'm always in trouble, aren't I? But that's who I am. That's what I do, and how I do it." So. The team didn't like him being so passive in Monza. He followed Schumacher 27 laps, and they said we want the fighty Lewis back, but of course he's tripped over somebody now.
Martin, I much preferred what I saw today from Lewis than I did at Monza. I was poor from Lewis. Yes, there was some very silly, reckless little moves, but nevertheless, I don't like the Lewis of Monza. It was poor for me. It didn't.
It wasn't
electrify
Lewis,
me.
really, was it?
Wow,
That's the
we
thing.
saw some magnificent overtakes from Lewis today, him down into that turn 7, and a really aggressive race despite all of his problems. Just that one particular incident where he lost his front wing and then got his drive through was completely and utterly unnecessary, and and pointless. He wasn't really fighting. It wasn't an attacking contact. It was just sort of hanging his wing out there, just like he did in Monza last year, where he connected and lost his front track rod back
But
in
he
Monza
did it in
against
Spa.
Massa.
Yeah.
Spa, Martin.
Yeah.
But that
Well,
shouldn't have happened.
So, but let's differentiate. There are some mega moves and occasionally they go wrong, and then there's just seem to be where he's doing nothing in particular and gets caught out.
Is the car just still not good enough that he wants to be further forwards? He wants to be in the lead. He doesn't want to be having to overtake people in every Grand Prix he takes part in. And the car isn't as good as his ambition, perhaps.
I'm not sure that's anything to do with it, if I'm honest. It's just about, there's one driver in a single-seater and it's his fault if it hits something. And it's about driving the whole race and not taking any unnecessary risks. Sure, sometimes they're a necessary risk for a key overtake. But they're just really odd, those incidents. I can't get my... Michael's doing a little bit the same in the Mercedes, to be honest. He's had some strange accidents this last couple of years.
But it is desperation, I think, and there's a little bit of frustration in there too. But these are professional athletes and they've got to control all of those things, and we mustn't be making excuses for them. They've got to make their own excuses. Having said that, what I think Lewis has done, he's unfolded upon us a new Jenson Button, because in, if you like, the mire of what's going on here, Jenson has reigned supreme. I think he's really moved up the peg.
Can I just pick up on something there? If you're frustrated, you go steaming into a corner, lock brakes and just wipe somebody out because you're over-aggressive. You don't just have pointless contact when you're not even in an overtaking position, or you're not even... as he was in Spa. That's what I don't understand. Frustrated driving means you do crazy moves, and they're not crazy moves.
Right. Talk about next year, because Lewis made the comment earlier in this season that his 2009 car had to be scrapped. It wasn't good enough. The 2010 car was scrapped, wasn't good enough. Is this car from this year good enough for them to use as a base for 2012, despite the few regulation changes that we've got? Are they going to be in better shape next year?
Well, for sure, they're not close enough to Red Bull as they are now, and Red Bull for sure are going to have a better car, or at least equal, and so they've got to find something, and they've got to find something fairly big and measurable, because they've got two world champions in the team, and they are behind the game ball at the moment, and what is also surprising for these teams like McLaren, Mercedes and Ferrari is that Red Bull have this championship over now, so they can concentrate. Normally, historically, when you've got somebody fighting so hard for the championship, they're inclined to just wanting to close this one out before they tackle the big project indeed for next year's car. That's no longer in play at the moment because Red Bull have the upper hand.
And lots of people actually saying perhaps we're all missing the point. The first time that Lewis Hamilton stands to be beaten by his teammate, perhaps that's the desperation. Perhaps it isn't the car, it isn't the team, it isn't his personal life, it isn't anything else other than the fact that for the first time Lewis Hamilton is not the fastest driver in a Formula 1 team.
There's only one person who knows the answer to that question.
He's not here, is he?
Let's see if we can find him.
Well, that would be lovely. He walked past a few minutes ago. I thought about having a word, but he had his head down. He clearly
very much his head down.
Wasn't in a situation where he wants to be spoken to or spoken about, so I think we'll just let Lewis stick with his thoughts. But as soon as Martin Whitmarsh is finished, we will make sure that we have a word with him, and this gives you some kind of idea of the press interest in Formula 1 here in the paddock. It's like its own little world. You can't move anywhere if you're Martin Whitmarsh without someone asking you a question about something.
Including the BBC website, buried in there, I see.
Well, Ted's there anyway, and
Andrew
I'm sure
Benson.
Lee can't be far away.
And Ted's there as well, so we'll talk about that, but let's have a little look at some action while we're waiting for Martin, because he could be a long time. Various different guys are diving in there, so let's have a little look at some of the Lewis moments from today. And Martin, perhaps you can talk us through them with your driver's eye, because the guy can overtake, the guy is exciting, and this is why he's got so many fans in the UK, including us.
Well, yes, apart from one or two little incidents, he was really driving beautifully, you have to say. I mean, aggressive techniques, and there's total control there. It's Massa that's made the mistake. Lewis didn't get sucked into the same error. He's got his DRS wide open, and that was an easy move. It was, he was completely the master of that situation, which makes the other incidents even more confusing. And this is up alongside Rubens Barrichello.
I suppose in these
calm
instances,
into the apex.
He's got a much faster car, though, because he's out of position, isn't he?
Yeah, that's candy from a baby, isn't it, really, in Formula 1 terms? But now it's against Sutil. I definitely sensed a little bit more respect between the two of these, or nervousness possibly even, of like, how are we going to manage this? So And he was lucky there because Sutil just yielded and gave him the space. Otherwise, there could have been more contact.
But Martin, isn't Sutil to be held out as perhaps an example because he knows where he's going to finish. He wants to finish in the points. He has a situation where he can have 2 cars of Force India finish in the points, and he lets him go because he knows that sooner rather than later Lewis is going to pass him.
Yeah. But unfortunately, he did it in a place where they both lost time. If that was his intention to let him go past, you need to do it. You need to just ease gently on a straight. I mean, even when Sutil let Di Resta pass, he sort of made quite a meal of it. I guess he wanted to make it quite clear he was being told to let his teammate pass at that point.
Sticking with Lewis Hamilton, if you were the team principal, what would you say to him at the end of this season? You don't necessarily have to look back because Formula 1 doesn't do that. What would you say to give him the confidence to turn up next year and drive in the way that we saw him in 2007 and 8 and when he was fighting with a not-so-good McLaren in the last 2 years?
Well, I'm not sure I'm really the right person to either, but certainly I think a big arm needs to go around him, a big love and affection. You're wanted. You are so important to what we do. Is it possible? I mean, I don't know why Anthony's not as close in the fold as before. Perhaps he's looking after Di Resta or not. But I just feel there's something just missing. I think the new management that he's got don't seem to be as around as what we used to see from Anthony. And I think there is always a case when a driver like Lewis needs to be loved and cared and cherished and respected. And that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see more contact with the team and him.
Martin, you agree with that?
I suspect the people closest to Lewis who can make the difference if there's anything to be a difference to be made with him might be Nick, his brother, and his mum and people like that. If he wants to unload some frustration and take some counsel in the team, obviously, mind your back, Jake. In the team is Martin here and Ron and people close to him on a professional basis, but. If we are saying that he's making mistakes because there's issues in his life or whatever, then it's got to be people closest to him in his life, I'd have thought.
OK, well, let's ask Martin, seeing as Martin's here. Taking today out of the equation, we'll talk about that in a moment, and the general consensus seems to be racing incident shouldn't have been a penalty for Lewis amongst the team here. But on a more general level, with some of the driving we've seen this year, what have you done, what would you do towards the end of this year to get us to Lewis Hamilton that is both exciting and controlled at the same time?
Well, that's the challenge, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I think there are negatives and positives from this weekend inevitably, and I know we don't at the moment we're focused on Lewis and not on a fantastic drive by Jensen, but I think it would have been very easy for Lewis today to be massively frustrated with what happened. He felt he got a penalty that he didn't deserve. He was way back. He'd had to replace a nose as well. He had a drive-through penalty. Very easy to get it to then let that frustration affect him. I think then you saw clinical, fantastic overtaking, more than anyone else, carving his way through the field back into the points. Lots of drivers would not have that discipline. So he has some discipline. He has plenty of passion. He's just got, he's got to control that to a degree. But I think he was, he was unlucky. But perhaps I'm partisan as usual.
Well,
I'm sure Eddie's going to give
I'm quite
another
certain
view.
you're partisan because you can't put as a solid argument, surely, that he had to replace his front wing. He put his car in a position where it shouldn't have been. So he allowed that incident to happen. And he caused that on himself. It wasn't Massa's fault.
Well, again,
I
I expect you to take the opposite view, but the truth is that there are plenty of people who have spoken to me already who have a different view. I think you have to take some risk in overtaking, and I think he is a driver who wants to overtake in a hurry. Now, after the event, he'll regret that, wish he'd backed out of it and waited for another 3 corners or whatever, but the fact is, it happened. It was right or wrong. After that, he drove an immaculate race. And, he shouldn't have had to. He shouldn't have had to have the penalty. He shouldn't have had his front wing knocked off. He shouldn't have lost places at the start. But, I think in sport and in life, things go well, things go badly for you. I think it went badly. I think, I've got to focus on the positives here, inevitably. We'll have conversations within the team. We'll have conversations with Lewis, but I think those are conversations we'll have in private. The fact is, he's an extraordinary racing driver. He will win again this year, of that I'm sure, and he's going to be world champion again. I'm very confident of that.
In my view, the overtaking phase of that particular move was over because he'd lost the corner, and it just seemed like a solid careless turn in. To me, is how I saw it. But I put it to you that if Massa had turned in and taking Lewis's tyre off the rim, you would have been expecting Massa to be penalised for that.
Well, of course I would, but we've just explained I am partisan, and that's the case. But I think, you know, after the event, it's very calm. You know, Martin, us armchair viewers can always take a view when you're there having to make split-second decisions. You know, is Lewis occasionally over-impetuous in situations? Undoubtedly he is. That is in his nature. He is a racing driver with great passion. But overall, I think, you know, he did some great overtaking, a great drive. Again, I think credit to him. It was easy when you're 17th, 18th, after all that frustration, to give up, to become further impetuous, and yet he showed great spirit to recover from a situation.
99% of today was a great drive from Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah. Well, let's just watch the incident with you, and perhaps you can explain to us what you think the stewards saw that made them think there should have been a drive-through penalty, and you can give us your opinion. So there they go. Here it is.
Well, I think, you know, at that point, Lewis has got to commit. He could have, you know, possibly was braking as hard as he possibly can, but, you know, he's having a really good go, as you can see at that point there. And you know, you can make a judgment on that however you want, but you know, it's a racing incident as far as I'm concerned. You don't go out there and race every time knowing you're not going to get into trouble. He's, you know, he's well alongside at that point, and you know, he hasn't quite got himself in. You saw he locked momentarily beforehand, and I imagine he was braking as hard as he could at that point.
And that's a flat tyre on Felipe Massa's Ferrari. Would that have been a part of their thinking? Would they have thought, well, you know, he has caused an issue for someone else on the circuit here. Massa isn't scot-free.
Well, I think both drivers suffered from the incident, and that's what happens in motor racing. And you know, if you want to apportion blame, which, you know, obviously stewards can do, and they have done in this case, but I think it spoilt the race. And you know, at the end of the day, you've got to accept that this is a decision of the stewards and get on with it, and that's what Lewis did very well.
Martin, your two drivers, one seems to be in a very happy zone. Jenson drove a brilliant race here again today. He's hugely supported by his family, his girlfriend, and a lot of people really close to him, and it means something. And yet, in recent races, we don't see that with Lewis. Are you putting your arm around him personally? Is there anyone in the team? Are you actually loving him and
I think Lewis is having plenty of love from the team, and you know, he is. You know, I've known him since he was 11, and I've seen him go through great moments of elation, great moments of achievement, and I've seen him in areas of disappointment. And naturally, there's a big affinity between him and myself and various other members in this team. We know him very well. So, undeniably, this year has not been a good year for Lewis Hamilton. He's still got 5 races. He'll be trying to win those races, and you know, he will regroup, try and win those races, and make sure that next year we come out less errors, faster car, and we'll try and win races and a championship.
We saw some needling qualifying yesterday between Lewis and Felipe. They've made contact before, Monza last year and at other times. Has Lewis got a bit of a head thing going on with Felipe Massa?
Well, you know, I think I mean, they've been friends, they've been enemies. You know what it's like amongst drivers. So I don't think that affects Lewis. You know, I think there's a car in front. He wants to get past it. Whoever's in that car, they're just the enemy at the moment. And I don't think it's personal. He just wants to overtake that car.
Okay, but let's not lose sight of what a great drive that was by Jenson. And he made the point there at the end.
I'm glad we get round to that bit.
I thought we should. He made the point at the end, guys, this was the best that we could achieve this weekend. But I think you will agree, round this circuit, to manage to get in between the two Red Bulls is nothing short of a great performance by him.
I think at the moment, I mean, you know, we weren't as quick here as a Sebastian Vettel in a Red Bull. So, you know, credit to Sebastian, credit to Adrian. They were very, very strong here. But I think at the end, you know, we proved that we're pretty close on a circuit like this. But, you know, that close isn't good enough. We want to be in front of it. So we've got 5 races. We'll try and win those 5 races.
Have you been impressed by Jenson? More impressed than perhaps you thought you would be?
More impressed than I thought it was going to be 4 or 5 years ago. I think, you know, I was delighted to have signed him, and I think he just, you know, increases to, you know, in his, you know, his composure, how cool he is in the team. But also, people, you know, they see him as a very laid-back character. But he isn't laid back when he's attacking to win a race, as we saw today. You know, he desperately wants to win. He's a massively competitive driver.
We've got a lot of stability in the rules for 2012. Can you catch Red Bull? How are you going to catch Red Bull? Please catch Red Bull.
Yes, we can, Martin. You reflect on this. You know, what we're talking about is is, fractions of 1% of performance differentiation. That's all it is. So, when you're winning, it's easy. We've been there ourselves. It seems easy, but it's very easy to lose that and to be overhauled, and we'll be doing our best to overhaul them.
Have you ever considered that maybe some of the pressure on Lewis has been caused by Jensen?
Well, of course it is. Any team mate who's driving well puts pressure on the other one. The truth is, the driver you want to beat the most is your teammate, as Martin knows. So, but I think that is good pressure in many senses. They have a great relationship. They respect one another, and certainly, that isn't an issue for us in our team. They're working very well together.
Okay, well, Martin, we need to let you go, but we can't without... What do you mean good? You don't want to go. One final very quick question. Jenson Button's contract, what's the latest? What can you tell us? It's our favourite subject here on the F1 Forum.
I'm very confident that Jenson will be with us for quite a few years.
You said that for weeks.
No,
when will it be signed?
It is signed.
I'm very confident he'll be with us for many years.
It's signed, Martin. We know the sign. Tell us.
Well, we're not getting any scoops here. Certainly not with Jordan here.
You deserve a scoop.
Well, let's ask Christian Horner if he fancies having Jenson Button in his team for next year. You do realise there is a driver called Jenson Button who effectively could still be on the market for, maybe not for next year, but for 2013. Would you fancy that?
It's the way he's driving at the moment, he's doing a great job. But no, I mean, I think the two guys were a class act today. So Martin's probably told you how they had the quickest car in the race and everything, but but no, it was.
How did you know that? Of course he did.
No, I mean, I think Jensen and Sebastian today were absolutely standout drivers. Phenomenal performance by both of them.
And Christian told us after the race, live on BBC One, we eased off, we wound the engine down, we just took it easy. Did you think that you were catching them on raw pace? Did you think that you could take the win towards the end there with Jensen?
No, but it's our job to chase. I mean, and I've openly said live on BBC as well, I think that we were pushing hard, which is our job to do that, to try and see where we can get to. But I think catching would have been one thing, or nearly catching. Getting past would have been another thing. And I think it's quite clear that Sebastian in a Red Bull today was the fastest thing out there. So it's going to be very difficult, but it's our job to try everything we can to do that.
Well, I guess at the end of this season, Martin, McLaren will reflect on this with a fair amount of pride, having managed to reel in and get as close as possible to Red Bull. I suppose just taking a pole position from them would also be something nice to have on the CV at the end of 2011.
It'd be nice for us in the commentary box as well, wouldn't it? But having watched the McLaren car in pre-season testing, I think it's an absolute miracle what they've achieved, to be honest. And they've come on strong and taken the fight to Red Bull, because you have to look at this season. This is the first race that Sebastian Vettel has led from lights to flag the whole year. And I think you've got to go back to Valencia 2010. A lot of the races you've won, they haven't all been easy, have they? And still, Jensen was pushing you as hard as he could today. So, McLaren have at least brought the fight to them, as have, of course, Ferrari as well from time to time. As Martin said, it's fractions of 1% that we're talking about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I wasn't aware of that statistic, but this year, Sebastian's had to work for a lot of those, 9 victories that he's achieved so far. But this was a really dominant display. At one point, he was almost 30 seconds down the road. We thought he'd found a shortcut or something. So, he was just enjoying himself. And it was a driver and car completely at one at a pretty tough track.
Lotus nearly found a shortcut into your side pod, didn't they, on that pit stop?
Yeah, I'm going to have to word with Tony Fernandez about his gearbox supply next year. He might be missing a few if they launch their cars out the pit box like that, because they came into the pit lane behind us and then tried to out-launch us at the bottom of the pit lane, which was a bit exciting.
Surely they can try that, but maybe legally next time.
Yeah, maybe. Talking about catching this team for next year, what did your aerodynamicists make of that video that was knocking around on YouTube that someone had managed to film of the underside of the Red Bull and in the diffuser? And
to be honest, I heard about it. I haven't seen it. I don't think there are going to be great secrets on that, unfortunately.
Well, there's an even better one of his car in Montreal.
Yeah, but no one's copying theirs at the moment. They all want yours, because yours is managing to go round a couple of seconds quicker than theirs.
But again, I think everyone focuses when a car is quick and dominant in the way that Red Bull has on one trick idea, one concept. But the truth is, it isn't. They've worked hard on every single detail. So a quick flash of something underneath, even if it works on their car, it won't work on ours. So there is a lot of excitement in the chat rooms maybe of sad people who do that sort of thing. But I don't think it helps us.
And a stunning number of Red Bull and McLaren fans in the UK. Perhaps you wouldn't mind just sharing with them and us now how things are looking for your respective teams for 2012. Perhaps we should start with the leaders. How are things looking for next year's car?
We haven't thought that much about it yet. Our focus is still on this year. So whatever we learn this year is relevant to next year. I mean, we don't underestimate, McLarens or Ferraris, and even Mercedes. They're all top quality teams. Got great strength and depth, and next year is going to be equally as tough as this year. And we're just trying to apply the lessons that we've learned this year and carry them through.
Christian, I think I asked you something similar last race, and that is, except it's now been bandied around the paddock that you've exceeded the budgetary regulations in terms of your spend. Could you please put that to bed one way or another and explain to us that everything is in order?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's absolute rubbish, to be honest with you. I mean, unfortunately, when you're winning, people are it's either your wing or your ride height, and now it's obviously the financial director that's breaking the rules. But Martin, in his role as chairman of FOTA, will be delighted to clarify that Red Bull at no point have breached any financial regulation.
Can you do that,
over
Martin?
to you.
Well, in fact,
can you
yeah, I can do that. I can. I mean, there's, and I said that very thing to Christian earlier in the week. I said, you are under some scrutiny because you're winning. I hope we're under the similar sort of scrutiny next year. There has been no evidence of any breach by Red Bull. This paddock is something that feeds off of paranoia or suspicion or whatever. So, we're working together. We're trying to make sure that people have confidence in that, but there is no evidence of that. The fact is, Adrian, the team, Christian, Sebastian, they're doing a great job. And
You told me on Thursday they were cheating. You said they spent millions and millions they shouldn't have spent.
Martin, it's all coming down to you started.
This is one of those then, is it?
Well, the rumour is that Christian took a 50% pay cut and wiped 30 million off the cost for the year.
So have you got budget left then, Christian, that you can sort of spread around the paddock a little bit? Have you got some left?
Now Martin said that obviously everything's fine, we'll just be full gas again. But, no, I mean, if you think for 1 minute we've spent more than these boys, you'll be absolutely completely
How many people
wrong.
have you got? They've got 700 people in total. Yeah.
A little bit less. But again,
Martin, these two boys are able to hide
the
people
fact
under
is-
cupboards.
No,
Do
no.
not underestimate how they can take things out of budgets just to get the control.
But you're
Listen, I was a
obviously from
schemer.
that
I'm not as big a schemer
grubby
as you
era
are.
of Formula One. Eddie.
As you should know, Martin, it's quality, not quantity.
Absolutely. Well, clearly, Eddie, you're still imagining that people operate as Jordan did in the mid-90s.
Skullduggery doesn't even come into the equation. These boys are experts in their own field of disguising costs, awareness, numbers of people. It is intriguing what they can do.
You didn't
with
didn't
numbers.
disguise the cost. You just took it all out of the company, Eddie.
And I'm just going to throw
getting
in...
personal now.
I'm just going to use the word allegedly for everything that was said in the previous couple of minutes. Martin, thank you very much. And there's more media, I'm afraid, that would love to speak to you over there, so we'll let you disappear off in that direction. But thank you very much. And would you mind staying with us just so we can have a look at Mark Webber's race? A difficult start. We've already had a look at Mark's starts, and we've discussed previously why he struggled with that. But when he felt good today, and when he felt good in Spa, some of his overtakes have been stunning. Let's have a look at Mark Webber on Fernando Alonso. And I guess it always feels even better when it's Fernando, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, he's put a few moves on Fernando in the last couple of races, and this one I think was into turn 10. Again going wheel to wheel with Fernando, around the outside there, and again another very strong passing move by Mark.
Yeah, it was in 14 and 15 because the one that really scared us had DC running out the back of the commentary box again was that one.
That's
Where
into 10,
really,
yeah.
And that could so easily, he could so easily have lost his front wing there. His judgment was spot on, you have to say. And I tell you what, he puts a lot of trust in Fernando Alonso, doesn't he, not to have him off the road. A lot of faith.
Absolutely. I think Fernando's been totally fair, especially the last 3 weekends with our boys, whether it was in Monza or Spa into Eau Rouge or today with Mark. He's been... part of being a great driver is also knowing when to concede as well, and he's given them enough room to operate with.
Okay, Eddie, you can make your point any second. Let's just quickly hear from Mark Webber.
Okay, gladly.
Mark, third place today. Just tell us about your race. You got into some battles with Fernando again out there today.
Yeah, we've had a few with him, haven't we? So, disappointing start. I mean, we've got to look at him, obviously. Must do better myself, and also see what else we can improve, because it makes it hard, particularly around here, if you're out of position. The DRS wasn't working that well, which is always a possibility. So then after that, I lost a huge amount of time in the first two stints. Fernando undercut us, which was always possible because it looked like he was having a bit more problem with tyre degradation. So in the end, I think ultimately, if I got track position on JB at the start, it would have been a good race between the pair of us. But he had a very, very good last stint. He was very strong. Clearly, he had a bit more fuel to use because he looked like he was saving a bit more in the middle of the race. So overall, reasonably satisfied. It's a tricky venue for me. It's not a track that I get into the best rhythm around here. So all in all, the guys did a good job with me, worked hard, and there's loads of landmines everywhere around here to walk away with nothing. So I've walked away with a pretty good result. Seb thoroughly deserved the victory, and I'm now looking forward to some tracks which I really do feel I can do well at. So I hope that finish here. I'm positioned to finish here in a positive note, and obviously Seb's going to be world champion in probably the next 2 races. So that would be good for him, and then the team can we can work on finishing the season strong for myself.
A couple of brave moves, particularly with Fernando, and you did seem to have bursts of speed. But as you said, your DRS wasn't working all the time.
It was working, but obviously it doesn't. On this track, it's very, very hard, and because it's so narrow down there, and it's not long enough straight. And also tactically, you can't just sit behind a driver and nail the back of him lap after lap after lap because the tyres get hot, things like that. So you need to come back, go again, and have a bit of a go at him. And Fernando's not in his first Grand Prix, so he knows where to put the car. And ultimately, I got him on the restart at turn 10, which was a little bit risky, but I had to do that in the end. So yeah, so that's how it was tonight.
It's great, isn't it? The drivers deliver in such a deadpan way their thoughts about one of the most incredible overtakes that Mark's pulled out this season. Before we let you go, it was interesting. Christian could see but not hear that interview, and his question to me was, is he happy? Is he happy with that race? I suppose our question to you, is he happy generally? He still doesn't have a win compared to Sebastian. Can he get it before the end of the year? What's his motivation?
I think it's tough for Mark because he's up against the best driver in the world at the moment, and take nothing away from Mark. Mark is a world-class driver. Sebastian has just upped the level to such a phenomenal level at the moment. It's tough for him, and a track that hasn't particularly suited him over the years. I think he's delivered a really, really good job today, and recovered very, very well. And he'll be pushing hard to try and win his first Grand Prix, in the remaining last 5 races.
I'm a big fan of Mark's, but shouldn't he be finishing second every time Sebastian wins? Isn't that what you expect of him and need from him?
That's our target, but after the start today, the left-hand side of the grid, the dirty side, lost some position, and his recovery thereafter was, was very, very strong. But I think irrelevant at the start, I think that Sebastian and Jensen were the standout drivers today.
Okay, Christian, thank you very much for joining us. Eddie Jordan has disappeared off somewhere. I think he's decided that he wants to get hold of Lewis Hamilton. Thank you, though. I know you've got photos to
I've got to go on that wheel now.
Oh, have you? What for?
Speak to Miss Mackenzie.
Oh, have you? Okay, great. Lucky you. Going on the Singapore Flyer with Lee Mackenzie. Eddie ran off there, tried to grab Lewis. What happened? What was said?
Not quite. He had other commitments, and we understand that. We've hogged, I think, McLaren all weekend, and he had other commitments elsewhere. But anyway, we tried.
Okay, just to make it crystal clear, though, we get lots of comments after the F1 forum and after the races and who we do and don't speak to. We try and request every driver whenever they will come and speak to us, and if they choose to come and have a chat, then we will put them on the television, and if they don't, then obviously we don't get the chance to do that. Okay, we're almost wrapped up here on the F1 forum. The plan next, however, is to hear from Jenson Button, who had a strong race as well today. Here he is.
Jenson, congratulations, second place today. You were fighting, or I heard you on team radio saying that you were going to try and fight with Sebastian right down to the end. Did you really believe you could catch him?
I didn't know. I didn't know how hard he was pushing. All I knew was that I had to give it my all, and the last 12 laps was the only part of the race I was allowed to push, and I pushed as hard as I could. It was better than my qualifying lap yesterday, so yeah, that was everything. I took a lot of risks and scraped a few barriers, and in doing so got the fastest lap, which is quite nice. But to be fair, all day we haven't been quick enough, in the race, and for whatever reasons we've not had the pace of the Red Bull, and some of the reason I think is because we went for a little bit more performance in qualifying. Possibly that hurt us in the race a little bit, but I can't see the reasons on what it is. But I think it was a good compromise, and this was always going to be a tough race for us to challenge Red Bull, and I think this is the best result we could ever have hoped for. So.
Were you ever hoping that you could have done it on 2 stints, or was it always going to be 3 for you?
No, I was surprised when we went to 3. The guys did a good job of calling 3. I had nothing to do with it, and I think they saw Sebastian and Mark bolting on super soft tyres and going quick, so we did the same, and at that point the team were like, "Go, you're allowed to push. You can push." And it was like, "Wow, at last!" And I pushed, and yeah, it was a great 12 laps of the race. But yeah, every lap was on the edge, and I really enjoyed it. It's nice to be able to race like that.
And a nice sequence of podiums you're building up as well now.
Yeah, I had a goal from Hungary onwards, which is the second part of the season, to beat Seb in the points. It's going to be tricky, but the second highest point scorer so far, and that's got to be aim for this season, to score more points than anyone else, and hopefully score more points than Seb in the second half of the season. But the main aim is to win races, and we tried that today. It didn't quite work, but we're the closest person to doing that. Thanks.
What a strong finish to the season, and how impressive that Jensen's just looking at the fact that he would have wanted to win today and couldn't quite do that. As we've already heard, that's where Christian Horner's disappearing off to in a moment, to the Singapore Flyer. We're almost finished on the F1 forum, but we are going to hear from the Formula One world champion in just a moment. But first, that was an interview with Jensen Button in what they call the driver's pen, and we saw yesterday after qualifying we followed Paul di Resta going into there. It's a place that all the drivers go together. They then speak to the media that either they choose or the media that wants to speak to them, and they're as close to each other as we are here. Often after quite a difficult race on track, sometimes they're next to a friend, sometimes next to a rival. However, today in there, this is what happened. Have a little look at this.
I will describe it, Lewis. Otherwise, congratulations to Sebastian. Good job, Very good. I will describe it, Lewis. Otherwise, congratulations to Sebastian. Good job, Very good. I wouldn't agree with him.
Well, let's just put that into context, Martin, and you're the only one here that can explain to us. After a Grand Prix, emotions are running high, there's plenty of adrenaline coursing around your body, and obviously when Felipe popped in there, he didn't actually mean good job, Lewis, did he? It was quite clear what he meant there.
Yeah, he was rousing him up, and he succeeded, didn't he? And Lewis is obviously still tormented by the fact he got a penalty that he doesn't think he should have had. He hasn't had the opportunity to see the video footage and take another judgment on that. You know, and he's entitled to his opinion, and quite clearly he was pretty angry, wasn't he? And that was just a trigger, wasn't it? It just absolutely went off.
Well done, though. You know, Lewis was reserved on the track when he wanted to finish the race in Italy, and actually quite reserved there, because that could have escalated a little bit. You know, Lewis held his own there.
Let's see how it happened. I thought Massa, in his way, he did it in a very sarcastic way, which meant that it was probably, it wasn't totally confrontational. By that I mean he put the thumb up and he says, "Well done, mate."
He didn't mean it, though.
Of course he didn't mean it. He meant absolutely the opposite. But it was a way, he didn't actually show him his fist, or he didn't push him, or he didn't do anything. He just said, in a most sarcastic way, "Well done." Therefore, I think it just evaporated, and they will make it up. I hope so, because they're actually two good guys.
And they're mates, actually.
If it was a rugby field or a football pitch, there'd be fisticuffs, wouldn't it? And that's how that sort of thing, no problem. That's how that sort of thing gets resolved, isn't it? And and it's acceptable almost in that environment. In Formula One, with sponsors all over you, it's just not acceptable. But I'm sure at that moment, Lewis might have thrown a punch if it had been a different sport.
Well, absolutely. If he was in New Zealand at the World Cup, they'd be both in the sin bin by now.
Very true.
You know, that's the great thing about Formula One. They are very controlled people. I think they're supreme athletes, and I'm glad to see that didn't escalate into anything silly.
I've seen worse with my dad at the Upper Stoke Holy Cross vegetable growing competition, so it's nothing too much to worry about, I don't think. Right, let's talk about the man who won this race, Sebastian Vettel. Congratulations to him, another win, and he's now starting to talk about records. He's now saying he's chasing after Nigel Mansell's 14 pole positions in one season. He wants that. And how many more wins can he pick up in 2011? Well, we'll wait and find out. But we know that he's a very happy man. He's been talking to Lee McKenzie.
Sebastian, not the title today, but a very dominating win. You must be pleased.
Very pleased. I think all in all it was a perfect weekend for us. It's a long track, a long way, a long race, and we kept the car in one piece for all the sessions. Last year I had some brushes on the wall here and there. This year I stayed off them, and a great result for us. The car was incredibly quick today. At some stages we were more than a second quicker than the cars behind, and I was surprised when I heard about the pace Jensen had for the majority of the race. In the end, he was obviously giving it a go and tried to come close, but we knew that we have a decent gap some traffic to face, so it was important to remain calm, keep the patience, waiting for the gap and wait really that the gap builds up and so that it's clear to pass. There had been some misunderstandings in the past with lapped cars, so given that there's not a lot of room out here, it was a good decision sometimes to wait. But I think all in all it was a great race for us. The car was, as I said, phenomenally quick all the way from start to finish, and I really enjoyed my Sunday evening drive.
Did your heart rate go up a little bit when you saw a Lotus in the pit lane?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I was thinking about it already when I went down, because I obviously knew that I pit the same time as the Lotus did, and I was watching the lights and they turned off when I was coming, so they released the car, and I was aware of the situation, backed off, and obviously it's not Heikki's fault in that moment because he can't do much. He waits for the lights and goes. Fortunately I wasn't too tired.
Every race, every day, you're getting closer to a championship. How do you feel heading into Suzuka? Excited, relaxed, not the stress I imagine that you felt heading into Abu Dhabi last year, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, today remind me in many ways of Abu Dhabi, the people all going a bit crazy, and I haven't seen that many cameras in my face for roughly a year. It was a stressful day, but I think, once again, it was important for us to forget about what's going on around us, to focus on our own performance, on our own race, and we got the job done. The team was very disciplined, very professional all the way through. All the time on the radio I had the feeling that they are as calm as I am probably on the track, or generally we were calm. There was no reason to panic, but it's very easy in the heat of the moment to sometimes get excited. We are on a good run, definitely. It's a lot of fun we have, and I think we can enjoy today. The championship is another bit closer, so that's the target for the next race. But for tonight, I think we have to enjoy. And fortunately, it's quite hot. We all lost a lot of water today, so it doesn't take too many drinks to get a bit happy. Yeah.
The title is...
Look at that, still got a smile on his face. Describes it as a Sunday evening drive, which is not a nice thing for the rest of his rivals to hear, but something really stood out for you in that interview.
Yeah, he said we came in together with the Lotus, so I already knew it was going to be closer. He was looking at the green light from the Lotus pit stop, so knew this thing was about to...
It's all of about that big.
Yeah, and it just shows you the mental capacity the boy's got. He's leading the race, he's driving the car and not hitting anything is obviously very easy for him.
Yeah.
And he's just like Alain Prost and others before that had so much capacity over and above just driving the car. And there he is checking out other people's pit stops to make sure they don't affect his race. Wondering why he didn't hit the brakes a little bit harder in some respects.
Eddie's famous for his glasses, so let's put Eddie in the driver's seat in high definition. Eddie, can you see the green light at the Lotus pit stop?
Well, yeah, you can actually.
Go on then, where?
Sort of there, or maybe not the light at the back of the car. But then you certainly can see the lollipop. And look, quite apart whether you can see it or not, if that's what he's saying, in the interview, he's a remarkable man, and one thing that must be appreciated by all of us, in fairness, in the accolades when we're giving them out to Sebastian Vettel, this is the coolest young driver I've ever seen in Formula One. And I actually think, I'm talking about Michael Schumacher, but I think Michael Schumacher was older at this stage. And he is so good. Look at that interview, how relaxed he was, talking about having a beer tonight or whatever, and he'll be out partying in Amber Rocks or wherever he's going to be. He'll be out there celebrating because he now knows he's won this championship.
He must be the first young driver you haven't made, Eddie.
Oh, I'm sure
Martin,
Eddie has.
you don't need to say that.
He must be. You made the rest of us. You told us.
Many times, Martin. Usually when I was issuing you with an invoice for damage or something like that.
And your eyesight is amazing, because when you went, sort of like that, there, it actually was.
You're trying to catch me out all day today, Jake. What's the matter with you?
Nothing to be caught. Thank you very much for watching the F1 Forum. Enjoy that, gentlemen. Good fun.
Yeah,
good fun.
This has emerged as, for me, absolutely right there. Singapore have pushed the boundaries back in terms of places to put on a race.
There you go. What more needs to be said? And we'll leave you with Singapore. If you just move backwards, you can have a look at the paddock. Of course, the plan for us, the plan for everybody else here, is to head off now to Japan. In case you're wondering who this lovely fellow is, that's Tiger the Soundman. He's on shot, more than the three of us put together. Have a lovely couple of weeks, and we'll see you in Japan for the next Grand Prix. Take care. And Sebastian Vettel is now so close to winning that title. Thanks for watching the F1 Forum. Good night.
Life is making you lonely, you can always go downtown. When you've got worries, all the noise and the hurry seems to help, I know. Downtown, just listen to the music of the traffic in the city. Linger on the sidewalk where the neon signs are pretty. How can you lose? The lights are much brighter.
Next time on Formula One, round 15, Japan.